In a quiet corner of the galaxy far from Earth, there was a planet named Valoria. It was once a beautiful place. The sky changed colors with feelings. Trees whispered songs when the wind passed. And the people, they lived in peace, using both science and emotion, but peace never lasts forever. Something terrible happened. A silent war, not with guns, but with something worse. An enemy released a strange virus, not to kill, but to erase emotions, to turn warm hearts cold. People forgot how to feel. They forgot how to laugh, and some forgot how to smile. One of them was a little girl named Alira. She was only 6. Her eyes were silver and bright once. She used to laugh at little things, stars blinking, birds flying, or flowers dancing in the wind. But now, her face was blank, not sad, not happy, just empty. No smile, no tears, no words. Her mother, Velen, watched her every day. She tried everything, stories, games, even music, but nothing worked. Lar just sat, silent, still. She had forgotten how to smile. Velen was not just a mother, she was a scientist. She knew the virus had taken something from her daughter's heart, something deep, something important. So she did what no other Valorian would dare. She left the planet. Searching for help from system to system, she traveled alone with Alira, asking, begging, pleading, but most turned her away. Some said, emotions are weakness, let them go. Others said, it is too late. But one old traveler whispered a name, try Earth, they are strange. They feel too much. Maybe they can help. Velen had heard of Earth. It was wild, dangerous. Humans were known for war, and for love, for hate, and for kindness. It was risky. But she had no choice. She flew toward Earth, hiding her ship deep in a forest. The planet was green, loud, full of life, so different from quiet Valoria. She searched. She didn't need a hospital or a lab. She needed a human, a real one, someone who still felt deeply. After days of scanning, she found him, a small wooden cabin hidden in the trees. Smoke from the chimney. A man inside, alone. His name was David. Velen knocked on the door. It opened slowly. David stood tall, strong, but tired. His face had scars. His eyes looked like they had seen too much. What do you want? He asked. Velen bowed her head. She spoke softly. My daughter, she forgot how to smile. David stared at her. And you think I can fix that? He said coldly. He was about to close the door. But then he saw Alira, a small girl behind Velen, still, quiet, pale. She looked up at him. Something in David's heart moved. A memory. A shadow, his own daughter. From long ago, laughing, running, gone now. Please, Velen whispered, just one moment of your time. David didn't speak. He opened the door a little wider. Come in, he said. The cabin was simple, warm. A fire burned in the fireplace. A dog slept in the corner. Alira looked around, but her face didn't change. David made tea. Velen held her daughter close. Silence filled the room. David tried not to look at the girl, but he couldn't stop. What happened to her? He finally asked. Velen explained the virus. The war, the loss of emotions. She saw things she shouldn't have, Velen said. Now, she is fading. David looked into Alira's eyes. Empty, lost. He had seen soldiers with eyes like that. After battles, after grief, he knew that. Look, why me? He asked. Velen smiled, a sad smile. Because humans still feel more than any race I've met. You feel pain, love, joy, hate, strong, wild, real, and maybe your emotions can wake hers. David laughed once. A bitter laugh. You think I can teach someone to smile? He said, I don't even remember the last time I did. But Velen didn't move. She just looked at him. With hope in her eyes, the dog walked over to Alira. It sniffed her, then wagged its tail and sat beside her. Alira looked at the dog. Just for a second, her fingers moved, as if she wanted to pet. David saw that. Something inside him cracked open. One day, he said finally, I'll give you one day. Velen nodded. Tears in her eyes, and in that small wooden cabin, far from any city or science lab, A war-torn man, a broken child, and a desperate mother sat together. Maybe, just maybe, the smile would return. David lived alone. Not just in his cabin, but inside his heart too. Years ago, he had family, a wife, a little daughter. Laughter. In the house, light in his eyes, but war came. Not just any war, an alien war, ships in the sky, fire from above, fear in the streets. David was a soldier then, brave, strong, a protector. But soldiers can't protect everyone. One mistake, one second too late, and he lost them both. Since that day, David left the cities. He built a cabin far from people, far from memories he didn't want to feel anymore. Feelings hurt. He didn't laugh, didn't cry. He just existed. Until they arrived, the alien woman and her daughter, Velen and Alira. They sat in his cabin now, by his fire, holding warm cups but saying nothing. David watched the little girl. So still, so silent. She reminded him of his daughter, but without the light, without the joy. He didn't know why he had said yes. Maybe it was the look in Velen's eyes, maybe it was the silence in Alira's, or maybe deep down he was tired of being numb. That night David couldn't sleep. He looked out the window, stars above. The dog snored softly near his bed, and in the other room, the alien girl slept with open eyes. No dreams, no peace. The next morning, David made breakfast. Simple eggs and bread. Velen didn't eat. She only watched. David placed a small plate in front of the girl. Alira looked at it. She didn't move. David picked up a spoon, tapped it twice on the plate, and pointed to her. Still nothing. He sighed. I don't know how to talk to someone who doesn't talk back, he muttered. Vlan finally spoke. Show her. Don't tell her. Feelings are not taught by words. David didn't reply. He took Alira outside. The forest was quiet, with light filtering through the trees. Birds chirped. Leaves danced. David bent down and picked up a stick. He threw it. The dog ran after it, tail wagging. David smiled a little. Then he saw Alira's eyes move. She watched the dog. Just for a second. Her head tilted. David threw the stick again. The dog barked. Ran faster, this time. Alira's fingers moved, slightly. No smile, but something. Velen stood behind them, hands folded, eyes wide. It was the first response Alira had shown in months. David looked at Velen. Did that mean something? He asked. Velen nodded, tears in her eyes. It means she noticed. The rest of the day, David tried simple things. He showed Alira his tools, his books, his small music player. He played a soft old song, a lullaby. Her eyes blinked slowly. No reaction. He told her a silly story about a bear who got stuck in a honey jar. Nothing. But she kept looking. Watching. David didn't expect a miracle. He only hoped she'd feel something. Later that evening, Velen sat by the fire. David sat across from her, sharpening a blade. You didn't come just for help, did you? He asked. Velen looked tired. No, I came for hope. She looked at Alira, who sat near the dog, staring at its wagging tail. Our world used to believe in peace, Velen said. But when the virus came, something deeper than sickness spread. Fear, coldness, we forgot how to care. Now even our leaders speak without feeling. David frowned. So, why Earth? Why me? Velen smiled softly. Because humans are raw. You feel joy like it's the sun, pain like it's fire. That's what we need. Your people are broken, but still, you love? David didn't speak for a while. Then he looked at her. I'm broken too, he said. Maybe more than most, Velen nodded. That's why you're perfect. Suddenly there was a sound. Small. Soft. David turned. Alira was reaching out to the dog. Her hand touched its back. She didn't pull away. Her eyes blinked, slower now, less empty. And then she looked up at David. Not with joy, not with fear. Just connection. A thread. David felt something in his chest. A pressure, a warmth. His eyes burned. He hadn't cried in years. I'll keep trying, he said quietly. One day is not enough. Velen said nothing, but her eyes were full. And Alira? She was still silent, still slow, but not lost, not fully. The cabin in the forest, once a place of silence and sorrow, now held a spark. It was small, but it was real. The kind of spark that could light up a whole planet. David had promised just one day. He was not a doctor, not a teacher, not a hero. He was only a man, tired, alone, and full of silent pain. But after that one day, something changed. He saw Alira's eyes move. He saw her hand touch the dog. He felt needed. And for a man who had lost everything, being needed felt like breathing again. So he stayed. He didn't say it out loud. But the next morning he made breakfast again. This time 3 plates. Velen raised an eyebrow. You said one day? David shrugged. It's still the same day. Just a little longer. Velen smiled. Alira didn't eat. But she didn't push the plate away either. She just stared at it, as if trying to remember what hunger felt like. After breakfast, David brought out a worn box from under his bed. Inside were small things. Old toys, broken watches, a dusty snow globe. He placed it in front of Alira. This was my daughter's, he said softly. Lir looked at the globe. Inside it, tiny white pieces floated around a little house when shaken. David gently shook it. Snow danced. Lir blinked. Very slowly. Her fingers reached forward. She touched the globe. No smile, but no fear. Velen watched quietly. Holding her breath, David spoke again, his voice calm and low. Do you know what snow is? Alira didn't reply, but she kept her hand on the globe. So David told her. About snow. But winter. About warm fires and cold noses. Simple things, real things, things Alira had never felt, or maybe had forgotten. Each story, each object, each gentle word was a tiny thread. And together, those threads were stitching something back inside her. Later that afternoon, David took her outside again. This time, he brought a small ball. He rolled it toward her. It stopped near her feet. Alira stared. David rolled it again. The dog chased it. Then Alira did something new. She looked at David. Directly. Her silver eyes met his. No expression, no sound, but the moment mattered. David didn't smile. He just nodded, as if they had made a silent deal. Velen stood beside him, whispering. This is more than science, she said. This is something even we cannot create in labs. David looked at her. It's just being human. Velen shook her head. No, it's more. It's being alive. That evening, David made a small fire outside. He roasted something simple, bread with cheese. He handed one piece to Alira, this time. She took it. She didn't eat it, but she held it, and that was enough. They sat under the stars. David told stories again. Not big ones. Just memories. How his daughter used to chase fireflies. How she once painted the dog's tail blue. How her laugh sounded like wind chimes. Velen listened with closed eyes, and Alira blinked slower now. Her shoulders relaxed. At one point, the dog sneezed loudly. David laughed. Velen laughed. And then they heard it. Soft. Almost missed. A tiny sound, a breath, caught halfway between a giggle and a cough. Lia. Her mouth had moved. Just a little, but it had moved upward. Not a full smile, not yet, but something was waking inside her. Vlen gasped. She reacted? David nodded. His hands trembled slightly. She laughed, a little. Alira looked down, almost confused by her own sound. She didn't laugh again, but she didn't retreat either. She stayed by the fire, holding her bread, watching the stars, and in that moment something changed for David too. For so long, he had locked his heart away, but now a crack had formed, and through it, light was coming in. Velen whispered quietly beside him. You said one day? But one day was enough. David didn't answer. He just looked at Lia, and for the first time in many years, he smiled, not because he had to, not because he was trying, but because he wanted to. Inside that broken man, inside that quiet girl, and inside that tired mother, something had begun to heal. The next morning, David opened the door early. The sun hadn't even risen fully, but he was ready. He had stories to tell, things to show, a planet to share. Because now, one thing was clear, he wasn't doing this out of guilt or loneliness. He was doing this because he cared. And Alira? She wasn't just an alien child anymore, she was a small spark, and that spark had touched the one thing David thought he had lost forever. Hope. Asterisk. The days passed slowly in the forest cabin. Each morning, David found Alira sitting by the window, watching the sky. She still didn't speak, she didn't smile, but her eyes, they were different now, less empty. Less lost. Every day she moved a little more, watched a little longer, touched a little stronger. And David, he felt like a man waking from a long sleep. He cooked, he told stories, he laughed again, softly, carefully, like someone learning how to breathe. Velen saw it all. She said little, but she watched closely. Her daughter was healing, and so was David, but behind Velen's eyes, there was something else, a worry she hadn't shared, a truth she kept hidden. Until that night, the fire was burning low. Alira was asleep in David's bed, wrapped in a blanket, the dog curled near her feet. David sat in a chair, sharpening a small tool. Velen stood near the window, staring at the stars. "There's something I need to tell you," she said quietly. David didn't look up. "You've told me plenty." Velen shook her head. "Not this. Not the truth?" She turned to face him. Her voice trembled just a little. "Alira is not sick by accident. This was done to her on purpose." David looked up now. His hand stopped moving. "What do you mean?" Velen stepped closer to the fire. "Valoria was attacked, not by ships, not by guns, but by fear." She paused. Then she continued. "A group of scientists, my own people, created a device. It could turn off emotions. They called it the purity pulse. They believed feelings made us weak, that logic alone could save our world." David leaned forward, his voice tight. "You're saying your people did this?" "To themselves?" Velen nodded. "Yes, at first it was only a test. Small villages, children." Her voice broke. "Alira was in one of those places." David stood up now, anger rising. "They experimented on her? They said it would be painless," Velen whispered. That emotions would fade gently, like falling asleep." David's hands curled into fists. "So your daughter is like this because someone decided love wasn't useful?" Velen nodded again, tears in her eyes. "I was one of them. I helped build the machine." Silence filled the room. Only the fire cracked softly. David turned away, pacing. "You helped do this to your own child?" "I didn't know she was there," Velen said, her voice shaking. "She was staying with my sister that day. I didn't know." She stepped closer. "When I found her, blank, silent. I tried to fix it. I used everything I had. Nothing worked." David didn't answer. He stared at the fire, jaw clenched. Velen spoke again. "That's why I came here, to Earth, to you. Because nothing logical can undo this, only something wild. Something human." David shook his head slowly. "You hurt her, and now you want me to heal her?" Velen looked down. "No, I want you to give her something I never could." "And what's that? Real love?" The words hung in the air. Heavy, honest. David walked over to the window. The night outside was deep and still. "Why me?" he asked again, quieter. This time, why not someone smarter, kinder, whole? Velen came beside him. "Because broken people understand broken hearts. Because you know what it feels like to lose someone and still get up." David closed his eyes. "What happens if she doesn't recover? Then she fades," Velen said. "Not just her mind. Her body too. Slowly, her system will shut down." "She's already halfway there." David's heart dropped. He looked toward the bedroom where Alira slept. Barely breathing. So small. So silent. And so close to being gone. He whispered without turning. "What if I'm too late?" Velen replied, "You're not." Every response. You see, her looking, her touching, that half laugh. Those are signs. She's coming back. David opened his eyes. The stars outside looked sharper now. Closer. "What about your world?" he asked. "Do they know you're here?" Velen nodded slowly. "They sent a message 2 days ago. I ignored it." "What did it say?" "Return immediately, or be taken by force." David turned sharply. "They're coming for you?" Velen nodded again. "Yes, they don't believe in emotion anymore." They'll take her, study her, lock her away. David stepped back. No, I won't let that happen. Velen looked at him carefully. You care now, don't you? David met her eyes. I do. Then we still have time. A little. How much? Velen whispered, maybe less. They both stood in silence, watching the sky. Alira slept peacefully in the other room, the first peaceful night she'd had in months. Outside, the stars moved, but inside the cabin something more powerful was rising. Not fear, not logic, but love. And love was ready to fight. David never thought a child's laughter could make his hands shake, but this morning, it did. Alira had laughed, not fully, not loudly, just a small sound like wind brushing past a chime. But it was real, alive, from her. David stood still when it happened. He was showing her how to whistle. He puckered his lips in a funny way and made a weak, silly sound. The dog barked, thinking it was a command. Alira laughed. VL and gasped. Her hand covered her mouth. Tears formed in her alien eyes, and David? He smiled wider than he had in years. Do it again, he whispered, but Alira only looked at him. A question in her eyes. She didn't laugh again that morning, but something had broken through. Something real. David found an old wooden box in his shed. Inside were paints, brushes, and a half-finished canvas he used to paint. Before the war, before the silence, he brought them to the porch where the light was warm. Want to try this? He asked Alira. She tilted her head. David dipped a brush into blue paint and made a swirl on the canvas. Then he handed her the brush. Alira hesitated. Then, slowly, carefully, she touched the brush to the canvas. Just once. A soft green. Volan. Watched from the doorway, whispering something in her own language. Alira painted again. Another color, then another. She didn't smile. But her breathing changed. She was awake. Alive. David didn't say anything more. He just painted beside her. Two artists, side by side, one broken. One healing. Hours passed like minutes. By evening, the canvas was full of strange shapes, messy but full of life. David looked at it and smiled. You know, he said to Velen, this doesn't follow any rules. Feelings don't follow rules, Velen replied. Then she grew quiet. Her voice turned serious. We have to talk. David's smile faded. About them? She nodded. They'll come soon, maybe tomorrow. They won't understand what's happening here. They'll take her. Say it's unsafe. David clenched his jaw. No one's taking her. Velen looked down. We may not be able to stop them. Then we try, David said. That night, Alira sat by the fire again. David handed her a small object, an old music box. It played a soft melody when opened. She opened it. Music filled the room, and her head tilted again. Her eyes softened. Then, to everyone's surprise, she spoke, one word. Soft, fragile, pretty. Velen gasped. Her knees gave way and she sat on the floor, sobbing. David turned to Alira, stunned. You spoke, he said. Alira looked at him. Pretty, she repeated, then placed the music box on her lap like a treasure. Velen reached forward, but didn't touch her daughter. She just whispered, She hasn't spoken in months. David's voice was thick with emotion. Then this place, it's working, Velen nodded slowly. Not this place, you, her connection to you. David looked at the fire. His heart was full of things he couldn't explain. He was only a man. No degrees, no alien tech. Just pain, stories, and kindness. And yet, it was enough. Love isn't logical, he said. Velen smiled. That's why it works. But as the night grew darker, a sound broke the peace. A soft hum from the sky. David rushed outside. Above the trees, a sleek ship hovered in the clouds, silent, silver, waiting. Velen stepped beside him. They found us. David's fists tightened. What happens now? They'll try to speak first, Velen said. Convince us. If we don't agree, they'll act. David's voice turned sharp. Let them come. They won't take her. Velen looked at him. David, this is not your war. She's not your experiment either. He snapped. They stood in silence as the ship slowly disappeared behind the trees. Hiding, but watching. Back inside, Alira was curled near the fire, the music box still in her hands. David knelt beside her. Do you want to go back with them? He asked gently. Lir looked up. Her lips moved. No. One word, clear, strong. David swallowed hard. Then I'll protect you. He stood, turned to Velen. I don't care who they are. No one takes her now. Velen didn't argue. She looked at her daughter, now awake, now painting, now speaking, and, for the first time in many years, she felt fear. Not for Alira, but for what her world had become. Outside, the stars watched silently. And inside that small cabin in the woods, three souls prepared for the storm. Love wasn't logical, but maybe, just maybe, it was powerful enough to win. The sky was no longer safe. For 2 days, the strange ship hovered above the forest, hidden behind clouds and nightfall. It didn't land, it didn't speak. It simply watched. David knew what it meant. They were waiting to take Alira, waiting to erase everything she had just begun to feel. Velen stayed close to her daughter, silent but alert. Her every move was careful, her voice was calm. But David saw the fear behind her eyes. He felt it too, inside the cabin. Everything looked the same, the fire, the dog, the soft light, the painting Alira had made, but something invisible was changing. Time was running out. On the third morning, the ship made its move. A beam of blue light flashed between the trees, quiet, clean, controlled. Then, footsteps. They came without sound. 4 figures stepped into the clearing, tall, pale, wearing silver suits that reflected the light like glass. They didn't knock. They didn't speak. David opened the door before they could. He stood in the doorway, tired, angry, ready. Can I help you? He said coldly. One of them stepped forward. A woman or something like one. Her eyes were silver like Alira's, but colder, empty. We've come for the child. David crossed his arms. She's not yours. The woman blinked once. She belongs to Valoria. She was exposed to classified technology. Her mind is unstable. She must be returned. She's healing. Impossible. That condition is permanent. Velen stepped beside David. She's speaking now. She laughed yesterday. The agents paused. Their leader tilted her head slightly. Evidence? David stepped back and called softly. Alira, come here. The little girl walked into view slowly. She wore a paint-stained shirt and held her music box. Her hair was messy, her face calm. She looked at the visitors without fear. One of the agents raised a scanner. It beeped 3 times. He nodded to the leader. Emotional activity confirmed. The leader's face didn't change. This is dangerous. The child is unstable. She may infect others. David stepped forward. Infect them with what? Laughter? The leader turned her gaze to him. You misunderstand. Emotion is not evolution. It is a weakness. David's voice grew louder. Then I guess I'm proud to be weak. Velen placed a hand on David's arm. We can't fight them with words. The leader looked at Velen now. You were once one of us. I still am, Velen said. But I am also a mother. The agent stepped closer. We must take the child now. Force will not be used unless necessary. David stepped in front of Alira. Then start with me. For a moment no one moved. Then Alira spoke. Her voice was soft but clear. I don't want to go. The leader paused. Child, your condition affects your judgment? Alira shook her head. No, I choose. Another pause. Velen's eyes filled with tears. Say it again, Alira. Alira looked up at David. I choose to stay with him. The words were simple, but they shook the ground. The agent stared at her, confused. David held back tears. Velen whispered. She made a choice. Her own choice. The leader turned toward her team. They spoke in a quiet alien language David didn't understand. Then she looked at Alira again. This is new, a first. David didn't move. The leader spoke again. Your presence has altered the subject's mind. This connection is not in our calculations. David smiled bitterly. Love rarely fits in charts. Silence followed. Then the leader gave a signal. The agent stepped back. We will report this to the council, she said. But understand, this is temporary. Valoria does not forgive disobedience. Let them come, David said. I'll be waiting. The leader's expression stayed blank. You are one man. You cannot stop us forever. David replied calmly, maybe not, but I stopped her from disappearing. That's enough for me. Without another word, the agents turned and walked away. Their ship lifted quietly into the sky, and the forest was still again. David stood there, breathing hard. Velen hugged Alira tightly. You were brave, she whispered. Lia smiled. Not big, but real. David looked at her. That was your first choice. And it was the right one. Alira looked up at him. Dad? David's heart stopped for a moment. Then it exploded with warmth. He dropped to one knee. Say that again, he whispered. Alira nodded. Dad, Velen turned away, tears falling, not from sadness, but from something far more powerful. Hope. In a world of perfect logic, a child had chosen love, and love had spoken louder than fear. Sunlight poured through the trees. The forest, once quiet and tense, now felt warm, alive. David sat on the porch, holding a mug of tea. He watched Alira chase the dog across the grass. She laughed, freely, loudly, beautifully. That sound used to live only in his memories. Now, it danced in the air again. He didn't need to close his eyes to remember. His daughter's laughter was not just in the past anymore, it was here. In Alira, she had changed, but he had changed too. Velen joined him with a soft smile. She looked rested, lighter. She's smiling again, David said. Velen nodded. And you're living again? They sat in silence for a moment, just watching, just breathing. Then Velen spoke. The council will decide soon. David looked at her. About what? About us. About Earth, about what Alira means. He frowned. You think they'll try to take her again? Not by force. Not anymore. But they'll want answers. So give them one, David said. Tell them she healed. Tell them love did what science couldn't. Velen shook her head. They won't believe words. They believe only proof. David looked toward Alira. Then let her be the proof. That night, a message came. Not a ship, just a signal. Velen's communicator lit up with a soft pulse. A voice followed, cold, direct, emotionless. The child may be presented before the council. One witness allowed, if her emotions are proven stable. Earth will be spared. David raised an eyebrow. Spared? Velen sighed. They fear emotional infection. They think Alira might spread it. Spread feeling? David said. Sounds like the best kind of virus. They both smiled. The next day they traveled. Not in David's truck. Not by ship. But by being fast. Silent, clean. Valoria was nothing like Earth. The sky was pale gray. The buildings were tall and colorless. The people moved in perfect lines. No one laughed. No one cried. Everyone wore the same expression. None. David held Alira's hand tightly. She looked around, confused. Why do they look so empty? She whispered. Because they forgot how not to be, he replied. Inside the high chamber, the council sat. 12 beings in white robes. Eyes silver. Faces still. Velen stood before them, Alira beside her, David behind them, silent but solid. A voice echoed from the center seat. We see the child. She walks. She speaks. She emotes, another added. We question the method. Emotions are unstable, dangerous. David stepped forward. So is living. That's what makes it beautiful. The room turned. To him. You are the human? Yes, he replied. David, father. The word rippled through the room like a wind they didn't understand. One council member leaned forward. You claim to have restored the child's mind. David shook his head. No, she restored her own mind. I just stood by her side. And what did you give her? David looked at Lia. She was holding the music box. Stories. Laughter, space to choose, and love. A long silence followed. Then a voice asked Alira directly. Child, what do you feel now? Alira looked up at them. Not afraid, not unsure. I feel warm, she said. I feel big inside. Like the stars are singing. I feel like I belong. One council member asked, "And where do you belong?" Illyra smiled. She turned, pointed at David. With him. That smile, wide, bright, full of everything the council had once forgotten, spread across her face like sunlight. In the back of the room. A sound was heard. Soft, strange, a gasp. A council member had teared up, a drop. Just one, but it was real. The chamber shifted, whispers rose. Not fear, not panic. Wonder. Elaine stepped forward. "This is your proof," she said. Emotion didn't destroy her. It saved her. "And what of others?" the council asked. "What if more children feel this?" David answered. "Then maybe your world will remember what it means to be alive." The council fell silent, then the oldest one spoke. "The child may return to Earth. She is stable. Monitored, but free." "And David?" Velen asked. "He will remain her guardian, her father." David let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. He looked down at Elia. She reached up, took his hand. Smiling. Back on Earth, the cabin was waiting. So was the dog. So were the trees. Illyra ran through the field again, laughing louder than ever. David watched her and whispered, "You changed them." She looked up. "No, you did." Velen watched from the porch, a quiet joy on her face, and in the sky above, deep beyond the stars, messages spread across. Veloria, not of war, not of fear, but of something long forgotten, a child who remembered how to smile, a man who helped her find it, and a world that finally began to feel again.